Jack, Mr. Dawson, it's been a pleasure.
Dawson, well, that's amazing. You could almost pass for a gentleman.
Leo. Man, Leo, you see my camera, man.
There were drug addicts in my alleyway.
One film made a young actor the world's obsession, but it almost destroyed him. Leonardo DiCaprio skyrocketed to fame overnight, yet why did he distance himself from Titanic, refusing to speak about it for years? How did the relentless spotlight twist his personal life, trapping him in endless dating rumors he could never escape? And what pushed him so far that he nearly quit acting altogether, feeling imprisoned by the image of Jack Dawson? To understand it all, we have to go back to when Leonardo was just a kid chasing roles, fighting for a single chance to be seen. Before Titanic turned him into a global icon, Leonardo DiCaprio was just another kid fighting for a way out. He'd grown up in a rough part of Los Angeles, surrounded by drugs and street crime, watching people lose themselves to the city's noise. Acting wasn't just a dream for him, it was an escape route.
Drug addicts in my alleyway. I got robbed at 5 years old or something like that. It was a pretty hardcore neighborhood.
He once said, "I'd watch TV and think, that's where I want to be. I want to get out." And he meant every word. His first roles weren't glamorous. A few commercials, short-lived sitcoms, forgettable background parts. But even there, Leo carried a hunger you couldn't ignore. Directors said he walked into auditions like he had something to prove, because he did. Then came This Boy's Life and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Two performances that turned quiet ambition into Hollywood attention. In just a few years, the kid no one noticed had become the actor everyone wanted.
How are you dealing with all this sudden fame and all these awards and This Boy's Life and What's Eating Gilbert Grape? How are you handling it all?
I'd say I try to spend a lot of time with my friends, my family, just stay at home a lot and mainly keep to myself, and it's not even real to me yet, so it's hard for me to answer that question.
And then came Titanic, that changed everything. A love story set on a doomed ship, and for Leo, a collision between dream and reality. It didn't just lift his career, it rewrote his life.
I've sort of done smaller films.
Yes.
But, and this to me was a completely new venture, and I sort of took a chance and tried something different. And, it definitely worked out in my opinion.
Because with Titanic, fame didn't knock on his door, it broke it down. Overnight, he wasn't just Leonardo DiCaprio, he was Jack Dawson. Every headline, every rumor, every flashing camera, all chasing a version of him that didn't exist. A movie that promised everything and took even more. The moment it hit theaters, Leonardo DiCaprio stopped being an actor and became an obsession. Crowds screamed his name, cameras hunted him, tabloids built stories faster than he could live them. He wasn't Leonardo anymore. He was Jack Dawson, frozen in a role the world refused to let die. And that's when the pressure started. The kind that doesn't make you famous, it breaks you. And as the world fell in love with Jack Dawson, Leonardo DiCaprio started to lose himself, piece by piece. Because behind that smile the world adored, he was already thinking about walking away. He was just 22, the age when most people are still figuring life out. But Leonardo DiCaprio couldn't walk down the street without chaos breaking out. Girls screamed his name.
This young girl came up and clutched my leg. I was saying, "It's okay, you can stand up, I'll talk to you." He was like, "No."
Paparazzi camped outside his house. One journalist wrote, "He's the most famous man on earth who looks like he'd give anything not to be." That kind of fame sounds like a dream. But for Leo, it felt like a cage. He once admitted, "It was like I was living in a bubble. I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't breathe." Everything became about Jack Dawson. For the first time in his life, acting, the thing that saved him, felt like a burden. Friends close to him revealed he seriously considered walking away from Hollywood entirely. Not for a break, not for a year, forever. He'd worked his whole life to be seen, and now all he wanted was to disappear. But something stopped him. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was the memory of that kid from Los Angeles who fought so hard to get here. Instead of quitting, he made a different choice. He would take back control. No more teen heartthrob roles. No more romantic leads.
I don't want to get stuck doing the same type of thing over and over. This is my life, and I want to make it exciting, and especially in my career, I want to take chances.
He started choosing dark, complex characters that Hollywood didn't expect from the Titanic boy. He pursued roles in films like The Beach, Gangs of New York, and later The Aviator. Stories that demanded transformation, that reminded the world he was an actor, not just a pretty face. It was his rebellion, his survival strategy, and slowly it began to work. For years after Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio did something unusual. He barely mentioned the film that made him famous. Interviewers would bring it up, and he'd deflect. Fans would ask, and he'd change the subject. Award shows would reference it, and he'd offer a polite smile before moving on. It wasn't that he hated the movie. He respected the craft, the crew, the story. But talking about Titanic meant reinforcing the very image he was desperately trying to escape.
Could Jack have fit on that door?
I have no comment.
The door smaller, so
Like I said, I have no comment.
Every time he spoke about Jack Dawson, the world saw him as Jack Dawson. The cycle never broke. He knew that silence was his only weapon. If he stopped feeding the narrative, maybe, just maybe, people would start seeing Leonardo instead of Jack. One close friend said Leo felt like he was being asked to live inside a photograph. Everyone wanted him to stay 22 forever, to stay that character forever. It was suffocating. Years passed before he could finally address it honestly. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he said, "I felt trapped by the image of Jack Dawson." Those words weren't casual. They carried the weight of a young man who'd nearly lost himself to a role. His silence wasn't arrogance or ingratitude. It was self-preservation. It was the only way he knew how to protect what remained of his identity. Sudden fame didn't just follow Leonardo DiCaprio. It invaded every corner of his life. Every relationship became a headline. Every friendship, a potential scandal. The boy who once fought for a single chance to be seen was now trapped under the weight of endless speculation. Dinner dates were photographed. Casual meetings turned into tabloid fodder. Rumors trailed him relentlessly, making privacy feel impossible. Intimacy dangerous. One particularly brutal period saw him linked to 5 different women in a single month, most of whom he'd never even met. His mother was followed. His friends were questioned. Photographers climbed trees outside his home, waiting for a glimpse through his windows. Giselle Bündchen, one of his most high-profile relationships, later spoke about the madness. "We couldn't go anywhere without being hunted. It put so much pressure on us." Leo started avoiding public places entirely. Restaurants became off-limits. Beaches, parks, even casual walks, all required security, planning, disguises.
Is it still difficult to you to have a normal life?
Not as easy as it was before.
Intimacy felt dangerous. How could he trust anyone when every relationship became a transaction for someone else's profit? Even a simple night out could spiral into a story he didn't authorize, a narrative he couldn't control. Leo began retreating, not from the world, but from the version of himself the world had created. The image of Jack Dawson wasn't just a role anymore. It had become a lens through which everyone judged him. And the harder he tried to live as Leonardo, the more the world insisted on seeing only Jack. He learned to guard his life fiercely. He avoided unnecessary interviews, declined social events, and let the silence do the talking. Because fame hadn't just changed him, it had boxed him in, rewriting who he could be and who he could love. If fame had trapped him as Jack Dawson, the question remained, how could Leonardo ever break free from the role that swallowed him whole? For years, Jack Dawson haunted Leonardo DiCaprio like a ghost he couldn't shake. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. He stopped running from Titanic and started running towards something bigger, roles that demanded everything, characters that challenged him, stories that mattered. Catch Me If You Can, Blood Diamond, The Departed, Inception, The Wolf of Wall Street, The Revenant. Each film was a declaration. I am more than that one role. He worked with Scorsese, Nolan, Tarantino, directors who saw him as a craftsman, not a commodity. He threw himself into method acting, physical transformation, emotional brutality. When he finally won his Oscar for The Revenant in 2016, after 5 nominations and 20 years of proving himself, it felt like vindication.
And the Oscar goes to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Thank you to all of you in this room.
Not because he needed the award to validate his talent, but because it symbolized something deeper. He had outlasted the image. He had survived the storm. Today, Leonardo DiCaprio is known as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Jack Dawson is a part of his story, not the entirety of it. He eventually made peace with Titanic. In recent years, he's spoken about it with gratitude and perspective, acknowledging both its gift and its cost. "It gave me everything," he once reflected. But it also taught me that fame is not the same as fulfillment. The kid who fought to escape Los Angeles, who nearly walked away from acting, who felt imprisoned by a single character. He didn't just survive, he transformed. And in doing so, he proved that even when the world tries to freeze you in a moment, you can still choose who you become next. Fame could trap you, twist you, even threaten to erase you. But your choices, your craft, and your resilience can pull you back from the edge. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't let Jack Dawson define him. He let Jack Dawson be the beginning, and then he wrote the rest himself.